Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar today. Really excited to have you join us. Really happy to have Phil Sayers from Pro10 Sales Development and The Gap with us. Should be a great session today. The title of today's session is How to Deliver More Coaching and Build Confidence. We recently ran a roundtable with 15 to 20 accountants talking about delivering coaching and advisory services to clients. And the one thing that came up time and time again in terms of what's stopping accountants delivering more advisory work to their clients, there was a large proportion of the group that said the positioning and the sales element to it. So I'm really happy, really excited to have Phil join us today. It's going to be a great session. If you have any questions for Phil as we go through the session today, please feel free to pop those into the Q&A box. And what we'll do is we'll wait to the end of the session and I'll jump back in and we'll fire those questions over to Phil. Have a great session today. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Phil.
Thanks, Dan, and hello, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to attend today's session. Actually, let me just switch off my video so you're not looking at my ugly mug. There we go. Now, coaching seems to be a bit of a buzzword in the accounting world at the moment, but I'm very much aware that for many accountants, the whole prospect seems a bit daunting. So what is it? What does it entail? How do you get started and how do you get clients interested in it? So today I'm going to be suggesting some of the steps you can take to provide a wider range of services to your clients, but more importantly, get them engaged in the process. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I can see a few familiar names on the list, and in fact, a couple of Gap users in there as well. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Phil Sayers, as Dan said. I'm the founder of Pro10 Sales Development, but I'm also the UK Director of Sales for The Gap. Now, I spend most of my time helping accountants, business owners, and salespeople learn techniques and skills that help them become more effective at selling and coaching, and then coaching them to become more successful and ultimately build better businesses. I'm also a published author. My book, It's All About the Value, is an introduction for business owners and salespeople who perhaps haven't had any formal sales training in the past, but who want to learn new skills or polish existing skills. It's also relevant to accountants. And the accounting profession has been bombarded for years with the message that they should be offering more advisory and coaching services to their clients. And yet there's very little effective help and assistance on how to do this properly. So today I'm going to suggest some ideas that you can consider that might just help you improve how you position, promote, and then deliver coaching services to your clients. But don't worry if you feel that not all of the suggestions are relevant to you. But if you go away with just one idea that helps you build your service portfolio and increase your revenues, then today will have been a good use of your time. Now, as Dan said, we'll take some time at the end to answer any questions. So please drop them into the chat box as we go through the session, and then we'll try and pick them up later. Now, I want to start by saying that it's vital to understand that when customers and prospects think about buying anything from us, they already have an idea of what they want. And since the advent of the internet, it's become so much easier to research anything before you buy it, which means that when potential clients first approach us, or when we approach them and they show some interest in what we offer, it's almost certain that they already have a view as to what it is they want or don't want. And that view is likely to be pretty well established and fixed. It's effectively their shopping list of wants. However, there may be other things that you offer that they could really benefit from, their additional needs. But more often than not, they either haven't recognized these needs or they haven't made a connection between what they think they need and what it is we offer. So the starting point for us to consider is, what are the problems that our clients might have that we can help them solve? How can we help the prospect recognize that what they actually need may be more than what they already know that they want? So a typical client already recognizes that they don't know how to generate a tax return or a set of annual accounts. They may also fear getting a letter from the tax authorities if they've made a mistake on their tax return paperwork. That's why when they start looking for an accountant, they'll have a shopping list of wants that they think you can address for them. And typically it's bookkeeping, tax returns, year-end accounts, and payroll services. But this is all only part of the story. To really help our clients, what we have to do is identify these additional customer needs, those other things that, if they were addressed, could really help them in ways that they hadn't previously considered. Now, even in so-called normal times, this is true. Clients will rarely understand all the things they actually need. But when you throw into the mix a global pandemic, things get really challenging for them. Many of our clients have had to shut their businesses, either temporarily or sadly permanently. They've had to consider completely pivoting the business. They've had to come up with new products and services, new ways of selling, new ways of communicating with potential customers. The list is endless. That's a huge amount of change on top of the usual challenges of running a business. And we all know that making any sort of change can be incredibly worrying and stressful. Now, we all want to help our clients solve whatever problems they're facing, but when you ask clients what problems they think their accountant can help them with, they'll almost always refer to their lack of accounting knowledge or the need to be legally compliant. But that's really not the whole story. So what do clients actually know? Well, firstly, they know what they know. They know their products, their customers, their pricing structure, or at least I hope they do. They also know what they don't know. How to keep effective accounting records, or how to complete VAT or tax returns, or how to manage payroll. That's predominantly why they work with an accountant. But more importantly, they don't know what they don't know. They probably don't know that restructuring debt could add significantly to their profit or improve their cash flow. They probably don't realize that improving their debtor days by, say, 25% could add another £50,000 to their bank balance. They probably don't know that by implementing effective sales processes, they could improve their sales conversion rate and increase revenues by, say, 20%. And they probably don't realize that if they could achieve 20% growth for, let's say, the next 5 years, they could retire early. And these are just some of the ways that accountants can help clients, helping them get to grips with aspects of their business that they don't really understand in detail. It's not a criticism of them. It's simply that nobody's ever really pointed these things out to them. Now, it's all well and good, but simply pointing out these things to clients is just the starting point. It's all well and good telling a client they need to reduce debtor days, but unless we also help them understand how to achieve this and then regularly review progress with them to keep them on track, there's always a risk that the old habits and ways of working will simply slip back into place. And that's where coaching can provide immense value. Now, coaching has been defined in many, many ways, but the essence of coaching is that it's there to help a client change in the way that they want and to help them go in the direction they want to go. Coaching supports a person at every level in becoming who they want to be. It builds awareness, it empowers choice, and ultimately leads to positive change. But it's also important to recognize what coaching isn't. It's not training. It's not telling the client what to do. It's helping them explore and understand the challenges they're facing and helping them come up with their own ways of addressing these issues and then supporting them along that journey. And this is why coaching is so incredibly valuable to clients. It's lonely running a business. We all know that. As a business owner, you often feel alone and totally unsupported. You end up spending little time working on your business and you get trapped in the day-to-day technical aspects. Coaching provides the client with increased accountability and support so that they can achieve the results they want from the business. And these outcomes could include the obvious things like increased profitability and cash flow, but it could also include things like spending more time developing the business or freeing up more time to spend outside the business. And of course, access to an expert sounding board to ensure that they continue working towards their goals in a consistent way. Now, some clients really need help guiding them through major changes. Others would benefit from having regular contact with a trusted coach, someone who understands their business, their goals, and their challenges, and has almost certainly seen the exact same issues elsewhere. Others just need access to a sounding board, somebody who can sanity check their ideas and plans and provide the ongoing encouragement to keep going. So it's all well and good understanding that coaching can be incredibly valuable to clients, but it's another thing entirely to understand how to position the value of coaching to them. Now, I've told this story many times, but when I started my own business, I knew that I would need to find an accountant to help with my annual accounts and tax returns. So I did what every other potential client does. I Googled accountants in my local area. I looked at numerous websites, most of which, to be honest, looked and read almost identical to the others. They proudly displayed their qualifications, their professional accreditations, their service offerings, and in some cases, their fee structures. And trying to choose between them was almost impossible. So I picked out a short list of 9 and called them all, asking for a meeting. I actually made appointments with 8. One didn't even return my call, which was an immediate strikeout. Of those 8, 6 of them took an almost identical approach. They welcomed me to their office, they offered me a drink, and then spent the next 30 minutes talking to me about their qualifications, their experience, their extensive client list, and their service offerings. 2 of them, however, took a different approach. They welcomed me to their office and they offered me a drink, but then they asked me about my business, my goals, the challenges I thought I might be facing. And only then did they talk about how they might be able to help me. The first group of 8 didn't even try to find out my list of wants, let alone try to uncover my list of additional needs. There was nothing to differentiate them other than price. And competing on price is, to be honest, a race to the bottom. So it will come as no surprise that I didn't appoint any of those 8. It became a decision as to which of the 2 more engaging accountants I wanted to work with. So we need to be different from the vast majority of accounting firms. We need to help clients and prospects understand that we can do far more than the standard compliance work for them. We can help them question what they're doing. We can help them look at their business in a totally new way. We can help them come up with strategies and action plans that will transform how their business runs and how it will help them achieve whatever personal goals they're aiming for. And this is part of the route to finding more opportunities to provide high-value coaching services to clients. It's educating them on what's possible and really understanding what's important, what needs to change, and how to achieve the goals they're aiming for. And there are a number of ways that we can do this. The first and the most obvious route to success is through our marketing efforts. It all comes down to educating clients and prospects on the possible through things like social media posts, through newsletters and webinars, all of which are designed to get clients thinking about topics that they may never have considered, thinking about those things that they don't know, and triggering sufficient interest in them to make them want to explore more with you. We can raise awareness of the types of problems we can help clients address. We can talk about how we've helped other clients achieve success. We can encourage clients and prospects to think more deeply about what's going on in their world. But this won't necessarily uncover the real opportunities for you. All it will do is encourage clients to reach out to find more. Clients won't come to you and ask for coaching. If you're lucky, they might come to you and ask for help, but that's as far as it will go. What we have to do is talk to them, and talk to them on a regular basis. And when I say talk, I mean have a proper dialogue. I don't mean preach to them or lecture them. You need their buy-in to wanting to work more closely with you. Now remember that when we buy anything, we make the purchasing decision on 2 quite distinct levels. There's a practical level in terms of, will this particular product or service actually deliver what I'm looking for? But there's also an emotional aspect to the decision, and this is especially true in the world of accounting services. So will I feel better as a result of working with this accountant? Will I enjoy working with them? Does he or she fill me with the confidence that this is going to be a worthwhile working relationship and a good use of my time and my money? So as I said, we need to be talking to clients and talking on a regular basis. But if we approach a client and say we'd like to talk to them about our coaching services, I'll guarantee that you're not going to get much interest. The topic of coaching needs to be introduced subtly in a way that sparks the client's interest into wanting to work with you more. Now, there are a number of obvious opportunities that we can have these types of discussion with them. The most obvious one is the annual accounts review. And I'd hope that each and every one of you take the opportunity to formally review the annual accounts with the clients once they're completed, to make sure that they're happy with the numbers that you'll be submitting to HMRC and Companies House on their behalf. And if you're not, I'd suggest that you're not looking after your client's best interests. And more importantly, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. Reviewing last year's numbers is the perfect time to see how happy the client is with the performance of their business. Are they achieving what they wanted? If not, why not? What do they want to achieve, and what needs to change in order for them to achieve these goals? And remember that for most business owners, the business is simply a means to achieving some form of personal goal, whether that's earnings, saving for retirement, freeing up time for the family, or working towards an exit. If with your help they can achieve those goals, they'll value your services far more highly than if they just see you as a means of keeping HMRC happy. And aside from the annual accounts review, there are other opportunities to explore the potential value of coaching with clients. You could offer them a free business review, or what the GAP refers to as a complimentary client review, during which we explore their personal and business goals, the opportunities they're aware of that they need to focus attention on, the vulnerabilities that might be holding them back, all of which could uncover opportunities to provide additional help and services. This type of discussion won't cost the client anything other than an hour of their time. There's no hard sell to the meeting. It's simply an opportunity to explore what's happening in their world and understand what's working, what's not, and explore ways to help them achieve more. Why wouldn't a client be interested in having that type of conversation? And remember that when I talk about their world, I'm not just talking about their business world. I'm also talking about their personal world. How many clients do you have who you know have issues going on in their personal world that are caused by what's happening in their business world? Perhaps they're working too many hours. They're not spending time with their family. They're taking their work stresses home at night, or they're under pressure to have that big family holiday in Disney World that they've been talking about for the last few years but never got around to taking. How valuable would it be to the client if we were able to help them understand how to make the business work for them and not the other way around? If we can demonstrate to the client that we can help them achieve this far more fulfilling work-life balance, you'll trigger that emotional buying response I mentioned earlier. And that emotional buying decision is way more powerful than a simple practical buying decision. Now, I see many accounting firms, I'm skipping ahead. I see many accounting firms offering regular management accounts or cash flow forecasts or reports to their clients. Now, these reports, they're wonderfully detailed and attractively presented. There are numerous software products on offer to help you produce them, and I have to say they're all pretty good at it. That's all well and good, but unless the client actually reads the reports and truly understand what the numbers are telling them, then I'd actually say that the reports have no value whatsoever. What's far more effective is walking the client through the numbers to highlight opportunities to make improvements, to discuss potential problems, which, if they're not addressed quickly, could become major problems. Once you start having these sorts of discussions with clients, you'll start to trigger thought processes about what they would really like to achieve, what they need to do to address the problems that you're highlighting for them, and what they need to do to make the most of the opportunities for improvement that you've also highlighted. There's immense value in this approach, and it provides the perfect platform to then suggest that you coach them along the change journey. So if you're already providing regular reports and forecasts for your clients, but not taking the time to walk them through the numbers, then again, I'd suggest that you're missing out on opportunities to provide additional services and to really help your clients in ways that they never thought were possible. And once we've helped the client define what they really want from their business, both professionally and personally, then perhaps you could help them develop a business plan that then goes on to set out their personal and business objectives, that highlights the opportunities they need to keep a close focus on, the vulnerabilities we may be able to help them address, and last but by no means least, sets out the short-term goals they need to achieve and the specific actions they need to complete in order to keep them on track. And once the plan is complete, what better opportunity is there to suggest that we meet on a regular basis to review progress against this plan, identify any corrective action that's required to get them back on track, or any new opportunities that we've uncovered, and hold them accountable for completing those actions they've just agreed to. The point I'm really trying to push here is that unless you're talking to your clients and talking to them on a regular basis, you'll never uncover opportunities to provide them with coaching, and they'll never fully appreciate the complete value you could be providing to them. Now, this all sounds great, but once you've managed to identify opportunities to provide coaching services to your clients, how do you go about doing it if you've never done it before? Now, the key to successfully delivering effective coaching requires a number of important steps. And the first of those is to systemize your delivery process. You need a standardized way of engaging with clients. You'll need templates you can use to get client information, to introduce new ways of thinking, to record the meeting minutes and actions, and then get feedback from the client to make sure that you're continuously delivering real value to them. You don't want to have to reinvent the wheel for every single client conversation. You're busy and your time is incredibly valuable. So the more you can do to reduce the amount of preparation that's required, the more profitable and enjoyable this type of work will be for you. You'll need to develop a consistent set of questions you can ask to encourage the clients to talk about what's happening in their world. You'll need a way of getting the clients to set the agenda for each coaching session so your discussion can focus on issues that you already know are important to them. You'll need a way of recording the agreed actions and then holding the client accountable for completing these actions. And you'll need a way of proving the value that you're delivering to them. And above all, you'll need to develop the soft skills needed to help you to articulate and communicate your real value to skeptical clients. Now, it surprises me that even now, that with all of the technical training that you go through to become a qualified accountant, very little importance is put on the soft skills that are required to really engage with clients and get them talking about what's happening in their world. Now, all of this might sound a little bit daunting. And, let's be honest, as accountants, we're trained to think that we need to be an expert in everything that we discuss with clients. The reality with coaching is actually quite different. None of us, and I really mean none of us, will ever have all the answers. And that's perfectly okay. What we need to be able to do is to get the client talking and then get them thinking about how to address whatever issues they're facing. They won't expect absolute perfection. And if you can help them come up with just one or two new ideas that will make a big difference to them, they'll thank you hugely. And this potentially is where I might be able to help you. So let's take a quick look at the gap. Now, for those of you who have not heard of it before, it's a software platform that provides the means for accounting firms to market, sell, and then deliver a wide range of advisory and coaching services to clients. And it was developed over a number of years by a guy called Mark Jenkins, a practicing accountant in New Zealand, who, during his 17 years in practice, recognized that in order to deliver consistent value to his clients, he needed a systemized way of working so that he didn't need to reinvent the wheel every time, that his team could work in a consistent way, that his clients would have a consistent experience working with him and his team, and that his clients would really value the service that they were receiving. When he finally came to selling his firm, more than half of his revenues were derived from advisory and coaching services. And then he teamed up with Viv Brownrigg, another accountant, and they converted his templates, his educational content, his processes, and his training material into the product that we now see as the Gap, Now, that was almost 7 years ago. And since then, the product has continued to evolve and develop into the comprehensive package that's now on offer. And amongst other things, it provides a number of out-of-the-box educational webinars and seminar events you can use to educate clients and prospects on what's possible, and then start to get them thinking about issues they may never have considered before. There are currently 15 pre-prepared webinars for you, which all of which include a customizable and fully scripted PowerPoint slide set, email invitation templates, plan templates, and follow-up emails you can send out. And we'll be adding to the list over the coming months. You may actually recognize some of the names that you're seeing on the screen, because a lot of the existing GAP members in the UK have really been taking advantage of these over the last 12 months or so as a way of educating their clients and their prospects. All of these webinars are educational in nature. They're not a hard sell. They're designed to get clients and prospects thinking about changes they could make that would make a big difference to them. They're designed to demonstrate how you might be able to help your clients. They're designed to trigger interest in discussing this with you in more detail. And above all, they're designed to generate new inquiries for you. Secondly, the GAP provides repeatable processes you can use to make sure that the delivery of services is consistent and scalable. They're not prescriptive. You don't have to follow them step by step. They're there as a guide to developing your own unique approach. It also provides you with delivery notes, so guidance on how to run these sessions. And that includes the questions you'll need to use to get the client talking and uncover opportunities to provide additional services. So think of these delivery notes almost as your crib sheet on how to run effective sessions with clients. It also provides you with training, not just on how to use the product, but more importantly, how to run these sessions with clients in order to be able to deliver the greatest possible value. You can dip in and out of the training videos whenever you need to, and you can learn in your own time and at your own pace. It also provides you with pre-work emails you can send to clients before you meet with them to gather important information and understand what's really critical to them. These get the clients thinking about the topics that you'll be covering in the meeting, and they'll help you make the meeting as productive as possible. If you think about that first meeting or call you have with a prospective client, wouldn't it be more productive if you'd sent them a pre-work questionnaire to complete, so that instead of spending the first 30 minutes asking about their business, their turnover, the number of employees they have, how long they've been trading, which accounting software they're using, how effective their cash management is, instead you could focus on their goals, their problems, and their dreams, that list of needs that we can then add to the list of wants they already have. It also provides you with meeting minutes to record what's been discussed, but most importantly, also the actions that the client and we have agreed to complete. And we also provide you with things like business planning templates that enable you to keep accurate records of what's been discussed and agreed, the objectives that the client is looking to achieve, and the actions that you've both agreed to complete with completion deadlines. And this also provides the perfect opportunity to suggest that once the plan's been completed, you should meet with the client on a regular basis to review progress against the plan, identify any corrective action required, along with any new short-term targets and actions. And once you get into that nice regular cycle of reviews with the clients, it very quickly becomes immensely valuable to the client, and you get a regular stream of recurring revenue coming through. And finally, it provides you with simple ways of getting feedback from your clients to check that they actually do appreciate the value of working with you. And of course, this positive feedback can then be used as part of your ongoing marketing activity in the form of testimonials and case studies, where your real life clients are talking about how working with you has transformed their business and in many cases their personal life. And then wearing my Pro10 sales development hat, I run regular sales skills for accountants workshops that introduce you to the skills and techniques, these soft skills that you'll need to define and articulate your true value, engage with clients in opening up discussions about their world and their challenges, position your value, handle objections, and close new coaching work without coming across as that stereotypical pushy salesperson we all love to hate. Now, I'd like to suggest that many of your clients would truly benefit from more of your help and guidance, but they almost certainly just don't realize it because no one has ever helped them understand what's possible and how to achieve it. If they don't understand how you could help them make major improvements, they won't ask you for help. We need to educate them on the possible. We need to help them understand what's working and what's not working. We need to help them define what they really want to achieve. We need to help them identify the specific actions they need to take in order to achieve what they want. We need to hold them accountable for doing these things that they've just agreed they're going to do. And we need to provide support all the way along the journey. And that's what coaching is. It's not training or lecturing. It's help, it's support, it's guidance, and it's being a sounding board. So if any of this is of interest, if you'd like to explore how introducing coaching services to your clients could help you improve your results and help your clients improve theirs, please get in touch. I promise you won't be on the receiving end of a pushy sales pitch. That's really not my approach. We'll discuss your objectives and explore how I might be able to help you achieve them. Does that sound familiar? Well, it should. It's the approach I recommend that you take with your own clients. So my contact details are on the screen now. There's a free trial available for the Gap, which will give you complete access to 3 of the modules, or bridges as we call them, because they're designed to help bridge the gap between compliance and advisory services. And of course, I can obviously set up online demos for you. And if you're interested in learning or polishing your soft skills, then perhaps the next Sales Skills for Accountants workshop could be useful for you. And that's on the 22nd of this month. So I'm pretty much bang on time. I said I'd be talking for about half an hour. So let's try and open up to see if you've got any questions. So Dan, have we had any questions submitted?
Hi, Phil. We haven't had any questions come in yet. I suppose from me, in terms of, so one of the most kind of important parts of sales in general, whether you're selling advisory or business transformation or selling any type of service, is around the questioning, right? Okay, so yeah. Putting together a meeting, I like to set up like a meeting framework for myself. First part I spend building rapport. The next part I call the fact-finding session. Once we've asked those questions, we then go into our pitch and what we want to talk about, and then we try and close it off somehow. Yep. But you rightly mentioned it in your presentation that the questioning is a fairly important part of the process, and it's very easy for a client to come into the meeting and start asking you questions straight away. Right, what do you do? How long have you been around? How much do you charge ultimately? But you have to try and find a way to control that meeting and take control back, because you don't want to give him all those answers, because like you said, that's just what he thinks he wants, right? Actually, what we want to do is uncover what they need. Yep. And do that by asking really effective questions. So do you have any guidance or advice on the types of questions we should be asking, or do you have like a top 3 questions every accountant should ask, or anything of that sort of nature? Yeah, it's a really good point, Dan. And I think if a client or a prospect comes to you with a list of questions, pre-prepared questions that seem to be focusing on, what do you do? How much do you charge? You need to avoid answering those, but in a gentle and subtle way. And the key to this is really to say, look, I know you've got a list of questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. But what I'd like to do is just to get a bigger picture, better understanding of what's going on with your business. So tell me about what's happening with your business at the moment. How happy are you with results? What are the big changes that are going on at the moment? Yeah. And the key thing with those initial questions is that they have to be open questions, not closed questions. So they can't be answered with a yes or no answer. What you're trying to do is encourage the client or the prospect to start talking. And we cover this in quite some detail on the sales skills workshops. But what you will find is, as you become more comfortable with these questions, and there's a whole set of them included within the Gap as well as prompts for you,
you'll find that as you become more comfortable with using them, you will ask a question and the client will answer. And you'll ask another question that may be related to their answer, or maybe a more general question, and they'll answer that. And you'll probably ask 3 or 4 questions, which they will respond to. And at some point in that conversation, the client will then come in with their own question. They're looking for a bit of clarification on something you've been talking about. And that's the trigger point. Once that happens, you know you've got them engaged, that they're now more interested in learning more about you. And this is where practicing these questions, practicing the skills really comes into its own. And it's something that, sales is not an art. I see people talk about the art of selling. It's not an art. It's a set of skills and techniques that pretty much anybody can learn. And you need a structured approach to holding these initial discussions with clients and prospects. But the key to it all is, pitching is not selling. Effective selling is more to do with listening than it is to do with talking. The more you can encourage your clients to talk about what's going on in their world, the challenges they're facing, the more opportunities you're likely to uncover to be able to provide them with additional help.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I've spoken to a number of accountants recently where by picking up the phone and speaking to clients or arranging more calls, and certainly kind of COVID has accelerated this advisory piece, if you like, is asking the client actually, how's the last 12 months been, obviously with COVID and things, and what have you done differently? How have you pivoted? Because actually there's quite a lot of R&D opportunities out there at the moment, which you could class as advisory, if you like. So there's lots of opportunities there. A question that I like to use on that rapport building phase, which I call phase 1, is how did you get into this? If you're having a conversation with the client and they manufacture, I don't know, door handles, how did you get into that? And business owners like talking about their business. They like giving you a bit of history and background to the company, and maybe they inherited it from their father or their parents, and or they acquired it or something. But that's a nice way to kind of open things up. Just coming from Elliot, what would you suggest to start this process if you have clients you have dealt with for many years who are used to having or just having compliance services from you?
Okay.
Great question.
Okay, depending on where you are in their financial year, the obvious starting point is to introduce this discussion as part of an annual accounts review. So if you completed their last set of accounts, invite them in to talk to them. You will almost always be able to spot things within their annual accounts where you think, well, okay, maybe if we could improve their gross margin by, I don't know, 2%, what's it going to add to the bottom line? Or if we could get, an extra 5% of sales growth over the next 12 months, what would it do to the bottom line? So when you're reviewing their annual accounts with them, talk about the numbers they've achieved, but then say, well, okay, what would it mean to you if we could change top line revenue by 5%? And the key thing is that your opening question, Dan, is a brilliant one. Why did you set your business up in the first place? But another beautiful question to add to that is, well, what did you want to achieve when you set up your business? What were your original goals? What did you have in mind? And you're right, people love talking about their business. It's their baby. They created it in many cases. Yeah. And they're happy to talk about why they set it up and what their goals were. And your follow-on question to that is, well, how well has the business actually achieved, or how well has the business done in achieving those goals that you set out? Because in almost every case, you're going to find clients who have not quite achieved what they set out to achieve. And that's the opportunity for you to start to help them say, well, okay, well, what would need to change in order for you to achieve those goals that you originally set out to achieve? And that is then leading into, okay, well, what can we do to help you make those changes? How can we restructure the business? How can we help you pivot it? How can we change the way you're running your finances? And you're right, things like there's huge R&D opportunities. But think about the implications of making the changes as well. So it's all well and good helping a client understand that perhaps they can, I don't know, make a claim for £50,000 of R&D tax credits. That's great. £50,000 is a lovely sum for most businesses. But take it that next step further. Say, okay, what would that £50,000 mean to you? Does it mean you could increase your earnings? Does it mean you can boost your pension pot? Does it mean you can go and buy that new piece of equipment that you've been after for the last 2 years but couldn't afford? Does it mean you can take on that next member of staff that means you don't need to work at weekends? So think about the implications of making these changes, because that's where the real value is. It's what's the impact of making these changes? How is it going to affect your working life and your personal life? And that comes back to this emotional buying process that I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, I think there are lots of opportunities at the moment, Phil, with regards to advisory coaching. Kind of with my kind of technology background in working at Xero, and there's lots of opportunities to help clients with digital transformation and app advisory, and asking some questions around systems, which you mentioned in your presentation as well, are really good. Also, credit control. If we can improve your debtor days by 5 days, that would mean an extra 50k in the business quicker, earlier, or in this financial year. Do you want us to set that up for you? I'll get a proposal over to you.
Yes, but don't forget the implication. Don't forget what's the result of getting that 50k in the bank? What is it going to mean to them? What are they going to do with that extra cash? And it might sound obvious, but a lot of clients won't make that next step in understanding the implications. So they'll think, yeah, great, 50 grand in the bank, lovely. But if you get them thinking about what they could do with that extra cash, you're going to get them more excited and more engaged.
Yeah, quite a nice thing that I heard recently, Phil, dealing with one of the accountants that I work quite closely with, when they are, and it comes back to your question, Elliot, around how do we move kind of compliance clients into advisory clients? And Phil rightly says, during the accounts review meeting, start having some conversations or open questions around kind of what are your plans for the next 12 months, and what are your goals, and do you need any help with budgeting or forecasting? They might say, we're looking to employ 2 more people, right? We can help with some forecasting and things. But actually, a really nice way to kind of move into that conversation is just by saying, well, what we're doing with some of our other clients is providing them with monthly or quarterly management accounting or reporting. So we're actually giving you kind of more insightful data quicker than year end. It means that you can have more insight and understanding of your business metrics and numbers more often, so you can make better informed decisions. But a really nice way to transition into that conversation is, well, what we're doing with other clients. And that's just a really nice way to kind of move into that conversation without sounding too silly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I would always focus it on, in terms of when you talk about what you're doing for other clients, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're helping. So that the reports and the forecasts are the means to an end. But what you're actually doing is helping your clients improve their bank balance, or increase their earnings, or be able to afford more staff. I have lots of conversations with accountants, particularly when I'm sort of presenting the gap to them, and they'll say to me, "Oh, we've talked to our clients about business plans; they're not interested." And what I always do in those situations is to say, well, okay, talk me through how you would go about presenting the idea of a business plan if I was one of your potential clients. And they usually will come back with something along the lines of, well, okay, Mr. Client, we've had a look at your numbers for last year. I think it would be a really good idea for us to work together on developing a business plan to set out your goals and your objectives for next year and what we can do to achieve them. And you usually get one of two responses from the client. One is, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Or it'll be, well, let me think about it, which is just a guarded way of saying, no, thanks, I'm not interested in. Whereas if you switch the conversation to say, okay, Mr. Client, I've had a look at your numbers last year. I think that there are probably 2 or 3 things that we could work on over the next 12 months that could potentially add an extra £40,000 of profit to your bottom line, and could probably boost your bank balance by 50 grand by the end of the 12 months. Now, I know that you're looking to expand the business. Why don't we spend some time working on a business plan to look at how we can make sure you achieve that extra profit and the extra cash in the bank at the end of the year? Now, it's going to take a bit of my time and my expertise, and the fee we charge for this is going to be X. What do you think? And at that way, the client is then looking, seeing the value of what you're offering rather than the process. There's a lovely statement I use in the sales workshops, which is to say that your value is not what you do, your value is why you do it. It's the outcome that's important, which is why I also said things like, you know, at face value, there is no value in a cash flow forecast and a detailed financial report. The value is in what does it mean to the client? How does it help them improve how they're running the business? How does it help them improve their earnings or their retirement plans or whatever it may be? And those goals will always be unique to the individual client. We all have our own personal things that we're looking to achieve. And ultimately, the business represents the means to achieving those personal goals.
Yeah. It's such an important part, isn't it, Phil? Like, you know, I have a software background, and for years and years and years, it was drummed into me, you know, talk and sell the benefits, not the function, not the features of the software. Yeah. Okay, it has bank feeds and the software can do X, Y, Z. Actually, people just want the outcome, like you say. And that's where you have to, there's so much to be said for that, because I see a lot of marketing, I see a lot of other software companies now in the role that I'm in, and it surprises me how many are not focusing on the end goal, the benefits.
No, and it's there's a nice little trick you can use if you're thinking about positioning something to a client. Just ask yourself the question: so what?
Yeah.
So if you think you can help them achieve their profitability by 40 grand over the next 12 months, so what? Okay, what does that mean to them? What are they going to do with this extra profit? Because it's the what they're going to do that represents the real value of how you're helping them.
Yeah.
So it's a slightly different way of thinking about it, but you're absolutely right. Don't sell the features. Yeah. You know, don't tell clients that you do bookkeeping, VAT returns and payroll, because so does every other firm of accountant.
Yeah.
Tell them you help them achieve their personal goals. Tell them that you help them get a better work-life balance. Yeah. You know, tell them that you help them avoid taking away their stresses back home with them at the end of the day, because that's where the real value is.
Yeah, such a great bit of advice, Phil. And also I love the part where you're using the actual numbers. So this will increase your profits by 40, 50,000 pounds a year, or estimate to, you know, it's so important to use the actual metrics, and so they can understand the real value, and then kind of moving into that kind of so what piece.
It does, and if you get really smart with it as well, if you think you can help them generate 50,000 pounds extra profit, suggest to them initially you can help them achieve 30, knowing full well that at the end of the 12 months it's likely to be 50, and they're going to be even more pleased than they were when they just thought they were going to be earning an extra 30 grand.
Yeah,
the under promise over deliver is a really nice approach to use as well.
Brilliant. Phil, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really great session. If anybody doesn't have any more questions, yeah, just thank you. Someone's just come in.
Oh.
How do we charge if the results are 50 or 30K?
Oh, good question. Charging is a really interesting one. I try and avoid linking your service to the time it's going to take you to deliver it. Because once you start charging by the hour, now I know this is an age-old question in the accounting world, but once you start charging advisory services based on time spent, people will start to think of you like they think of solicitors and lawyers, that it's something that can be negotiated and that they want you to spend less time on doing it. So don't position it in terms of the number of hours it's going to take. Understand in your own mind how long you need to take to deliver whatever this particular service is, but don't share that with the client. And there is no hard and fast rule, but if you think of it in these terms, so if you think you can deliver or help you're not going to deliver it, the client's going to deliver it. If you think you can help them deliver an extra 50 grand's worth of profit over the next 12 months, any fee that you charge within reason is actually going to look like a good fee. Now, within the sort of gap community, there's a whole range of fees that people charge for doing things like annual business plans. And they range from typically around about £1,000 to maybe £2,500. But if you're talking to a client saying, well, we think we can deliver £50,000 worth of profit by year end, they look at that and say, well, okay, 2.5 grand, it might sound like a big number, but that's even if I take that off the extra profit I'm going to generating, I'm still £47,500 better off at the year end. So position your fees only after you've positioned the value that you think you can help the client achieve.
That's really important. Really, really great bit of advice as well, Phil. You don't want to give away your price before you even told the client the type of work and the value that you're going to bring to them. So yeah, always say that back. If there aren't any more questions,
we've got one from Gary, which is actually a really good question. So should you provide refunds if the client's dreams are not achieved as intimated? If not, what is the correct route to take? Okay, don't offer guarantees, because you can't guarantee the delivery of that £50,000 worth of profit. What you can do is you can help the client understand and agree to the steps they have to take that should therefore lead to the £50,000 of extra profit, but you can't control whether they're going to do that or not. As part of your coaching process, you would try to hold them accountable for doing these things and guide them along the way, but it's not within your control. So never ever offer guarantees. And that's why it's also important to sort of under promise and over deliver. If you think you can help them get to the 50 grand mark, suggest to them that actually we're probably going to be looking for 30 grand with the idea in the back of your mind that the aim is actually to overachieve against that. The only things I've seen work where you're offering guarantees or refunds would be something that you have absolute control over, which might be in terms of things like tax savings. So if you know that there are certain steps you could take right now that could save the client, I don't know, 10 grand in tax next year, and say to them, we need to do a tax review. I think we can generate some tax savings, and instead of the 10 grand figure, if I can't deliver at least 5 grand of tax savings to you, then you don't have to pay my fee. In that instance, it's entirely within your control. But in the case of things like business plans and development and coaching, ultimately the control lies with the client. You're there to guide them, you're there to encourage them and support them along the way, but you personally cannot control the absolute outcome.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Phil. Navid has asked how much the software costs are to implement. I don't know if that's a gap question or if that's a general kind of software-based question. Navid, all the software vendors will charge different prices. Some charge on a subscription by subscription basis, other kind of do it kind of bulk-wise. And then, yeah, I'm sure kind of Phil will reach out to you in terms of on the gap side as well, Phil, right?
Happy to talk through it. I mean, the gap subscription model is a fixed monthly fee based on the number of people in your firm, because that typically reflects the number of clients you're working with and therefore the size of the opportunity. And at the lower levels, the smaller team levels, the subscription fees relate to, I mean, they'll pay for themselves if you have typically 2 clients for whom you're doing an annual business plan and quarterly reviews. So you don't need a large number of clients working this way for it to start to pay for itself. But no, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you, Navi, to talk through the specifics for your firm.
Do you want to talk through quickly, Phil? I know we've got kind of 5 minutes before we're just wrap up. Do you want to talk a bit more about kind of Pro10 and how you help accountancy firms?
Yeah, sure. So there are sort of, I guess, three angles wearing my Pro10 hat that I work with accountants. The single biggest one, the most popular one, are the Sales Skills for Accountants workshops. I run them every couple of months, and I say the next one's at the end of April, 22nd of April. And it's a half-day session, fully online now, obviously. And we work through everything from helping you understand how to articulate and communicate the real value that you deliver, how to have these types of conversations with clients and prospects, the sorts of questioning techniques you can use, how to open up the discussion, all the way through to then okay, we found an opportunity. How do we now position our value and our fees against that? How do we handle objections, closing techniques? We touch a little bit on pricing and negotiation skills as well. And the feedback to those is always really, really positive. I must admit, when I first put them online this time last year, I was a little bit nervous because I'd always done them face-to-face before that, but the feedback is always really, really positive.
Are they one-day sessions, Phil? Half day, one day?
They're half days.
Half-day sessions.
Yeah, it's usually in the morning, 9 till 12, but I have done them in the afternoons as well. And I've run them around the world as well. I've even ran some in New Zealand at the back end of last year at the sort of middle of the night. Yeah. The other the second way of working with accountants is that, but on a more specific basis for an individual firm. So we'll tailor it slightly depending on the employees you've got in your team. And then the third way I work with accountants is I also act as a coach for accountants. And it's particularly accounting firms who want to grow and they want to be more engaging with their clients. So again, it's helping them develop their own business plans, setting their goals, their objectives, and then coaching them along the way.
Yeah, I love the idea of the GAPS founder when he sold his practice. Was it 50% advisory, 50% compliance?
It was just over 50% was advisory.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's a nice.
And I think for me that's part of the real credibility of the product. I always say it's not the brainchild of a group of bright software developers. It's come from years of practical experience doing exactly what many accounting firms are trying to do right now. And basically Mark and Viv's attitude is, well, why reinvent the wheel? We've already done it. Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going more and more in this direction, isn't it? And like I mentioned earlier, if COVID has done anything, I think it's accelerated this advisory relationship with our clients. More conversations, helping our clients be better, and making sure we charge for the work in the process and growing our business that way. So this is, for me, really, really important.
It is. The one final point I would make is when you're suggesting ways that you can help clients, if let's say they ask you for a cash flow forecast, give them choices. So, option one might be, we'll work together and we'll develop a detailed cash flow forecast and the fee is going to be X. Or perhaps option two might be, we'll give them the templates. They can create their own and then we'll review it for them. And the fee will be, X minus 20%. Or the third option might be, here are the templates, go and do it yourself, but there'll be no involvement from us and that's free. You're still providing value, but you're not using your own valuable time under the free option. So don't be scared about offering alternatives. And again, that comes across as far less pushy, far less salesy, and none of us, especially accountants, like the salesy approach.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, Phil. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Joe. I can see your message come through. Thanks, everyone who's still with us. Appreciate your time. With the amount of content available online at the moment, it really means the world to us that you are in this session with us. So thank you so much for the support. And Phil, thank you so much for preparing that presentation today. It was great.
My pleasure. Loved it.
Thanks, guys.
Dan.
We'll catch you all soon.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.